We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today. Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. For me, Steve Ray. This is the three Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your weekend, your Newcastle United weekend with another game. They're coming fast and furious now, and it's a chance to reflect on that wonderful game on Wednesday night. Thanks to Rich Joblin for this little bit of footage. Just listen to his burn. Yeah, listen. The volume's gone for some reason, but we had the volume there, Rich. Thanks for sending it in. It's the celebration. That's what it meant to Geordies around the world. VAR decision, that second goal. They're jumping up and down celebrating. Rich Joblin and his son. Thank you for sending that in. Absolutely brilliant. Great to see. And Newcastle United beating PSG 4-1. Unbelievable, really, George, to think that we've now had one of those games which is on par with Barcelona 3-2, Manchester United 5-0. Sunderland 5-1. Three games that stand out in my memory. Sheffield Wednesday, the 8 that Newcastle scored under Sir Bobby with 5 goals for Alan Shearer. So there's lots of games that stand out, but that's up there on its own, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I would say after the experience of Wednesday night and in my peculiar circumstances, I've trawled every bit of television and videotape I could find about the match. And you know something, the continent's showed it more than they have in the UK. I find that fascinating. But apart from that, no, I think it transcended all the others, including Barcelona. Let's face it, this is a match where a lot of fans were hoping would cling on for a draw, if lucky. And it never came like that. And if you look at the stats are just unbelievable. We only had 23% possession. And we win 4-1. That's got to be a piece of tactical genius by Eddie Howe somewhere. And the other things are that what makes it different for me is, even though I wasn't actually in the ground, all the preamble before this match wasn't there for Barcelona or any of those other matches. War flags just, I use the word occasion, war flags have just turned the match into an occasion. It's that little bit different, and G's people up. It gets them going long before they've kicked the ball, and I just like the whole idea of what comes out of there. In terms of the match itself, well, I'm delighted because most of the big performers were Geordies. Sean Longstaff, how he was not in the England squad. I'm not going to talk England squad because I'll just get upset. I'll start swearing. He was just magnificent. Elliot Anderson, when he got the chance, magnificent. It's the only word you can describe it. Dan Byrne, who some of our own fans on here were saying, "Oh, he's got to be off. Get him off. We don't want him." Magnificent. I mean, they all were. It was and the banter at the end with Carragher and the others was absolutely lovely. And to see Micah Richards and Carragher singing "Geordie boys are having a laugh" and all that sort of thing, I don't think you'll see that again, not for a long, long time. And then back to the other players. People have been questioning Tonali. He was, but is there a blade of grass on St James's Park he didn't cover? Because I didn't see it, and his play was magnificent and supported all the other midfielders and had his own input as well. After that, a superb Bruno back to his superb best. They're all players who've just laid a marker down on the international stage. And it would not surprise me if come next summer, the transfer window, all sorts of people are knocking on the door to talk to some of our players, even the local ones. Because magnificence, the only word I can use that fits it for me. Hard work, energetic. The press was there. The teamwork was there. And to say it all happening for Eddie Howe, when the national press to say it best lukewarm, and some of our football colleagues in Manchester and Liverpool were saying, "Why should they let them in? Why should they let them in the Champions League? Because they'll just make a fool of the Premiership." Well, who's the fools now, lads? Not us. Not us. You'll be a long time before either of you, Manchester City as well, pull on a performance that rocks Europe like that one did. Absolutely magnificent. Only word I keep saying.
Mitch, wonderful, wonderful results. 4-1, well deserved as well. Despite the possession stats, Newcastle were clinical, weren't they?
It hasn't just rocked Europe; it's rocked the world. Backpage news on two of the papers in Dubai. Where they're talking the Middle East for all the right reasons. What an evening here in Dubai with the Dubai Mags. We had 60 booked for the evening, and it turned out there was nearly 100 by the time the match kicked off, and the stragglers were getting home at 5 a.m. I think there was a lot of sickies thrown on Thursday. I'll tell you that. Shout out to young Thomas Dockey, who was last seen asleep on a table in Barasti at 4 a.m. Some of the lads I hadn't met there before, just to, shout out to a few of them who got themselves down for the evening. And what an evening. What an evening. You cannot use too many superlatives to talk about it. That was a statement victory. There's no doubt about it. And no one can deny that or take it away from that. We now have to look at anything going forward. There's nothing we should fear and no one we should fear. And that's not arrogance. That's just from what I saw. Stats are always interesting. Possession stats often mean nothing. West Ham went and won at Brighton and thumped them. And I think Brighton had 70% possession. Hi, Frank. This is Frank the cat, by the way. He's actually not my cat, but, So, you can't underestimate the performances. We saw why we signed Tonali. That's the kind of game he shows class in. But I think looking in the aftermath as well, I don't know if you've seen the interview Sean Longstaff and Dan Byrne did with the American commentary team with Micah Richards and Jamie Carragher and Peter Schmeichel. And the last whose name I forget, but she's actually very, very good because she lets people get on with it and doesn't interrupt too much. The interview with Sean Longstaff was very revealing to see Jamie Carragher talking to him about look, when my son was having problems with injuries, I got your phone number and I got him to speak to you because I know you were going through a similar thing at the same time. These are the things you don't hear about very often. But now you understand why some of our players get the praise from fellow professionals and former professionals that they get. And I think that's also then testimony to the setup that we have at Newcastle United behind the scenes, the dressing room. It's a positive dressing room, but not a toxically positive dressing room. You don't want someone around who's toxically positive, who will tell you that everything's fine while you're on the deck of the Titanic and you're up to your neck in water. Being positive in that situation is toxically so. But what you want is people who believe. And we saw everybody involved, on and off the pitch, believed. And now, if we, as a fan base, can't follow that lead and believe that we can do anything we put our mind to, we've just taken a team who are assumed to be one of the best in Europe and not just beaten them, we've thumped them. And yes, we were missing 4 or 5 players. That's mental. Absolutely mental. And I genuinely think we can start believing in doing anything we want. And I think we're already showing lessons that we've learned last season about mentality and about how to be a winning mentality. And I think that's what I take from that going forward.
Steve, we had a catch up at Rival before the match, and amazing really to think that we witnessed something special on Wednesday night in the flesh. You know, to be part of that, to be part of the War Flags display, be part of a crowd that, you know, cheered its team on to victory, and then to witness some of the some of the best goals the Champions League has seen so far. I don't think that's pushing it at all with the strike from Almiron and Fabian Schär especially. No, but it was a night to remember, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. As I've put in my little piece on NUFC Fans United, it was very difficult to write a match report on that game because there was so much to write, and you wanted to keep it brief. And I mean, the first thing that went through my mind after the game was us older guys who were at Barcelona and have had some great times and have been able to live on those for the last 26 years. Now the younger generation have got a Barcelona of their own. They've got a game that they can talk about, a game that they can mention in 26 years' time to their grandkids and children. It's kind of, we know things go in cycles, but this was their chance, and absolutely delighted that way. The club itself, I mean, we've come a long way in a short period of time. An awful lot of criticism has been thrown at us as fans. But I think that, as Mitch says, the rest of the world, not just the rest of Europe, sat up and looked at that performance. George said 26 or 27% possession. It didn't appear like that at the game, I must admit. The game seemed to flow so quickly that you weren't aware who was on the ball and who wasn't. When they had the ball, we were then winning it back off them, and Tonali was trying to drive us forward. He wasn't looking constantly for the sliding pass or the play back in the same way as both Bruno and Sean Longstaff were exactly the same. I think if you looked at the stats on the number of times our midfield players played the ball back to the central defenders, I think that it was minimal. And the reason for that was that PSG played with their 4 strikers. They played with the 2 wide men and they played with 2 down the middle. And that gave us the space in midfield. And whether or not they thought that, that would mean that our front 5 would drop down into and leave Isak isolated, and, they would come back and try and hold defensively. But we didn't, Enrique was outthought, as somebody said on the messages there. He was outthought by Eddie Howe. A master stroke in tactics, absolutely superb. I'm not going to mention the back 4 because I'm going to leave that to Mr. Penman, because I know that Mr. Penman wants to talk particularly about 1 or 2 of our back 4 and 1 in particular, which is quite right. So I'm going to leave that glory to him. But let's just say that everybody in that team. Somebody said that we had 3 Geordies on the pitch that knew what it was like to wear a black and white shirt. To be perfectly honest, we had 11 people on the pitch on Wednesday night who knew what it was like to wear the black and white shirt. And we've now got the Geordie Galacticos, haven't we, in Byrne and in Sean. And long may it continue. We'll keep our feet on the ground, though. We know that Eddie will keep the team's feet on the ground. They'll go into the game on Sunday, and then the little bit of a break for the international, recharged, which is why I'm delighted. Personally, disappointed, I suppose, for those who might have thought they would have get into the England squad. But I'm delighted because it means they get a nice break. They can recharge their batteries and they can start focusing on where we're going to be. And we've got a game against Dortmund coming up, and we've got a big cup game where we'll stuff Man United as well. So, hey, what a time to be a Geordie.
Good evening, Stu. A lot of people scratching their head going, why is he on here tonight? Well, he can't do the professionals this weekend because him and I are cross purposes with our work commitments. So we've welcomed him on here tonight because we know that people like to get that fix of Stu each week. Stu, your thoughts on the game?
Happy birthday to young Ashton Bowron. That's Spenny's son. He's 12 today. And I know he's watching with his dad. So happy birthday, Ashton. Get out the way. And there was something on the bottom there about, is my Christmas tree not up? Well, it's been up since September the 1st, as you lads know. However, what you don't know is today my Christmas tree has been vandalised and it's now been turned into some sort of Halloween concoction. Which quickly, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can you see that?
Yes, yeah.
That's what I live with. So back to the on Wednesday, the first thing I think we should be talking about for European games, white shorts in Europe should now be decreed law because it actually looks good and we play excellent with it. And it was the collective team spirit and the willingness and the desire that's seen everyone through. I don't think you could point the finger at anyone and say, oh, they were below par. To a man, everyone was excellent. The substitutes that came on, they all knew what they had to do. They all knew their role. And you know what epitomised it most was when Isaac went down with a head injury. Lesser men would have, I'll use this excuse to get off, but he wasn't going anywhere. And he got himself bandaged up and the crowd got behind him. He responded to the crowd. And it galvanised him, and he actually played better when he had the bandage on than what he was at the start. And, you know, you take things into consideration. The question I asked in our group was it better than Barcelona? And a few years that were there said, you believe it was, but I'd take a step back and think maybe the euphoria of the night before. And I start thinking, look at what we did on Wednesday nights. Wins like PSG will become more frequent with this team, with this manager, with this ownership, where Barcelona had been previous European champions and have been since. PSG haven't yet. So for statement wins, that for us was something that's, 20 odd years later, we're still talking about. I think if we're talking about PSG in 20 odd years' time, then we failed with what the plan is for our future. But it might be something that's referred to on the point where that's what kick-started it. That's when we actually believe that we do belong. That's where it all started in Europe. And the conviction in the performance was excellent. And again, something that Mitch has said to me frequently when we've been in the bar in Dubai is when Mr. Hasty mentioned the possession there. And it's something that Mitch says, I hear him say it when he's talking to a woman. It's not what you've got, it's what you do with it. And when we had it, we were excellent with it and we made it count. And when we didn't have it, it doesn't matter about possession. We can sit back, hold our line and let them pass it along their back line all day long. They're not going to score from their own half. And it looked like they run out of ideas. And for my benefit, if we're going to a Braveheart scene, it was like when they're screaming, hold like that. And they were just waiting to just be launched at their PSG defence again as soon as they released the ball in a position where we thought this is gettable. And yes, I was envious of those who were there, but so proud. And I probably consumed far more alcohol than I should have. And then I thought I was later than going to bed as I should have because of the time difference. I had to get up early, and then last night I was out with Les as a West Ham fan. I was mine and Mitch's. He's over here, and it was really a night I could have done without. And that was another one after midnight. So today I'm in recovery mode with that. If we then talk back to the game, it's one of those where I was so confident going to win, and as Steve Hasty mentioned there, the person he didn't refer to, but he knows I'm going to, is Jamal Lascelles. We've all said, even before the draw was made, it would be nice for him to get an opportunity to play for Newcastle at St James and in the Champions League, for his commitment to the club, his attitude. He's never dropped his shoulders, he's never moaned, he's never slagged anyone off in the press. And his performances over the last 18 months when he's had an opportunity have been exemplary. And it just showed the way he was on Wednesday night. You'd be happy with that. Yes, Shaw and Botman are the number one pairing. But if either of them out, I don't think anyone can doubt that Jamal Lascelles is a top-class defender, and he's a lot better than what people had given him credit for. And the way the team responded to him, every tackle he made, the covering he did, he was foot faultless. He was foot faultless. Sorry, he never made one mistake, and it was just one of those nights where you say everything clicked. And I don't think Eddie Howe could have went home and watched the game again on video and tried to find faults. The only one I could have found was sometimes the midfield from the TV gallery, from the view that we had watching on TV. Midfield sometimes were too straight, rather than where the pass could get straight through them. But I think that was done to suck them into passing it forward for the defence to gobble up. So all in all, 4-1 against Paris Saint-Germain. Not one person who has black and white affinity can complain about that. I just think that we're going to be even better. And although they were all 10 out of 10s, my man of the match was Fabian Shaw. I thought he was outstanding. Bear in mind, he was probably the only one playing out of position. He was, even before his goal, he was outstanding.
Yeah.
Okay, this is causing a bit of a bone of contention. Which one was the better win? I've stuck a poll in the chat, so vote yes for PSG or yes for Barca, which was the better game. A lot of people got different opinions on this. Steve, I'll go back round this way. Which game was the best for you? CC asked in the chat, Sean asked in the chat, where does it rank? Which was the better game? Is Stu right? Was Barcelona more important because of where they were and what they've done, or was PSG more important? Because it's against a team with one of the best players in the world, leading its front line.
It's a really, really difficult one to equate to, because Barcelona, I think we went into that game against Barcelona as supporters just so excited to watch Barcelona. The thought that Rivaldo and players like that were going to be on the pitch, and they were in Newcastle, and it was the first time we'd experienced anything. I think we went into the game very much in awe, if you like, as supporters of who the opposition were, and would have been happy with a 0-0 draw. Would have probably been happy with coming away with 1-0 defeat. It was just, we're here now. We went into this game on the back of 4 straight wins, picking up a point in Milan. We went in with no fear, and I think no fear in the crowd as much as no fear on the pitch. And I think that the expectation and the occasion were two totally different things. I think the occasion itself, the atmosphere that was built, as George said, from War Flags, was second to none. I got into the ground. I walked along Strawberry Place at 7:30 with you, Steve. There was hardly anybody on the streets. Strawberry Place was virtually empty. Everybody was already inside. You could hear the noise and you could hear the singing in the Gallagher end outside as we were walking up. I hadn't experienced that before. There was still half an hour, 40 minutes, I think there was to go at that point. I got in at past, and the whole place was just rocking. And that said an awful lot for what was to come in terms of the atmosphere. But personally, I obviously I enjoyed both games. But personally for me, I think the Barcelona, because it just came so out of left field, the three goals by Asprilla. Yes, we were hanging on at the end, but this was the start, we thought, of something. This was Newcastle in Europe for the first time in the Champions League. And I think for that reason only, Barcelona will hang in my heart slightly more than Wednesday night. But it's a hair's breadth away, the gap between the two.
Okay, I am going to sing that song because lots of people clearly want to hear me sing it. Lascelles, he moves just like gazelles. He ran and caught Dembele, and I thought, bloody hell, brilliant! That, really good. Could be a could be a single, So mate, don't worry, there's plenty singing in Tweet of the Week. Mitch, where does it rate?
Comparing games across eras again, and it's always very difficult, I think. I think in terms of level of expectation, I think this would be a bigger surprise for the PSG game. I think we were trying to judge where we at in terms of levels of European football, and I think we surpassed anything that we could have ever hoped for on Wednesday night. The Barcelona was still a superb result, but maybe it's not the kind of European rocking type of result that this was on Wednesday night. And having seen some of the self-appointed YouTube experts and some of their reactions and how gutted some of them looked as our goals went in, and the ones who like to put we're down and tell we're that, we're this and we're that and we're nothing, looking dumbfounded and actually gutted when we went 3-0 up. It tells you the kind of statement we're doing, because we're also seemingly fighting English fans for pecking orders in Europe now. But it's a whole idea of entente, and you support the English team wherever you can, seems to have gone out the window when it comes to Newcastle United, and I'll remember that. And I'll remember the fans who were wanting to have a laugh at our expense. Well, who's laughing now? I certainly still am. I haven't calmed down yet, really, truth be told. I probably won't calm down for some significant time, particularly as my boss is. He picks and chooses when he's French and when he's Lebanese, and he's been French all last week supporting Paris. Well, he was rather quiet on Thursday and today.
I was quiet on Thursday.
Well, I was a little quiet on Thursday. Bless the girls. The booked us just check-ups in on Thursday. They must have known. So I think in terms of the statement of saying to the world we're here, I think Wednesday's game has it all. And I'll always remember the Barcelona game so fondly, the trip-like experience at half-time when you're 3-0 up against Barcelona. And they came roaring back at when we had to keep a very good Barcelona team at bay. We didn't get anything of that off PSG, but we didn't give them the opportunity. We need more credit for that than we're getting in certain places. We're certainly getting that credit over here. But I don't see we're getting that credit from the British press. Once again, it's PSG having an off day. Oh, fuck you. We're Newcastle United, who wants to know?
Okay, the votes are coming in. 96 votes so far. 74% of the voters think PSG was the bigger game and better win, and etc. So keep voting. Be interesting to see where that goes as the night progresses. Where do you think this ranks, George? Is it bigger than the Barca game and the result? George? Oh, he's gone in that paused. He's gone into that knitting pose.
Well,
oh, he's back. You're back. There you are.
I think I've already said it. Yeah, already said it. PSG, We didn't just beat them, we thumped them. And we weren't supposed to have a chance. Barcelona was slightly different in the sense that there was an expectation we might hang on, and we did better than that. But no, it was a masterclass on Wednesday night. You can't say that Barcelona was. It was just phenomenal from the manager right through to every player on the pitch. And going back to the statistics, it was actually only 23%, Steve, possession, and they made more than twice the number of passes than we did. Now that tells me, if you're analysing the game, a lot of the passes were in their own half because they couldn't get in our half.
George, we're struggling a little bit with your internet. If you can go out and come back in, mate, that would be great. Unfortunately, your internet's letting you down a little bit, and you're a bit stop and start. So we'll take you out and bring you back in. There we go. Okay, we are coming up to 30 minutes into the show, and I just want to say thank you to Bullet Boy for sending us this. He said, "Great shows, guys. This is why I don't bother with Sky and the BBC, etc. If I want genuine opinions and real news on our club, this is where I come. What matters is NUFC, and what matters to me is NUFC matters." Brilliant, guys. Thank you, Bullet Boy. That's very kind of you, mate. We do get quite a few messages from time to time from people, but that was nicely put, and thank you very much. And I don't want to go into this tonight, but Stephen, I did get this, and thanks for sending us it. This was against Burnley at the weekend, and still massive queue issues 40 minutes before kickoff outside the ground. Certain parts of the ground are really suffering. Other parts of the ground have got no issues at all, but the east stand seems to be a bit of an issue, and certain sections of the Gallagher corner as well. So, if you've got problems, the best thing to do is email the club. Supporter services is where you need to go. Photographs like this are very important as well, because the club won't realise, what is going on. It's highly unlikely that stewards will go back and report anything unless there's an issue. When I say an issue, I mean an altercation, or if somebody has an injury, or somebody collapses or whatever. That kind of situation could be going completely blind of the club. So we need to really just email those kind of things to supporter services, because it's affecting people on a match to match basis. And it's I'm getting photographs sent by different people all the time like this, and people don't know what to do. Contact the trust, contact the supporters club, but most importantly, contact the club, because the club will have to do something about this. If this is going to go on and be a regular issue in certain parts of the ground, and people are missing 10, 15 minutes of the game, then it's not good customer service. You need to get in touch with the club. But thanks for sending us them, Stephen. Much appreciated.
Steve, can I just say a little something on that?
Yep.
One of the things I've seen on my timeline from this is yet another way. There's a little bit of a split and a little bit of divide. You got younger supporters blaming older supporters because they cannot use their phones properly, or they cannot do this, or they cannot do that. Let's try and look at it from another point of view. Instead of getting angry, what I would ask anybody who feels that way, if they're in a queue like that, show a bit of love and say, "Can I help you? Can I help you with that?" Because it'll help everybody. But it does seem to be the same parts of the ground over and over again. There's obviously an issue. The club need to be made aware of it, and the club need to be reaching out and trying to help with it. And the only way they're going to do that is everybody works together. If we work together as a fan base on it and stick together. And so if you think somebody in front of you in the queue struggling with that phone or with that ticket, and you think you can help them, offer it. You might actually save that person a lot of hassle, because they might be quite embarrassed if they're stuck like that. And if they're anything like my dad while he's not here, you won't turn around and ask for help.
Very true. Good advice, and that's the best way to deal with it. Okay, put your fingers in your ears if that music you might not like. day I met, where we were asked you to send photographs saying of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. Big thanks to Ian from the Fans Forum. The day Tommy met Super Mac. Tommy, his son, there's Gibbo in the background as well. I recognise that hat anywhere. Yep. So there they are meeting together. So big shout out to Tommy. It was good to see you, mate. And Mark Billen sent this one. The day Morris Leslie Graham, my granddad, centre, met fellow Newcastle United legends Bobby Mitchell and Jackie Milburn at the Mayfair Ballroom on the 22nd of January, 1965. Mark, that's wonderful. What a great photo. I'd love to know what that conversation was all about, because he's certainly making Bobby Mitchell laugh. It looks like your granddad's got a good sense of humour, and Jackie Milburn looks like he's heard it before. But yeah, great photograph that, Mark. Really appreciate you sending that in. And if you want to feature one of your photographs on the show, got a lot coming in at the moment, then please send it to me or the lads on social media, and we will endeavour to get them on just so we can play this music. Stu got in early with a question. He says, what do you think of the match announcer drowning out the crowd at the end of every game? For me, he destroys the atmosphere and should let the fans and players celebrate together. I think Rob Byron does a really good job, Stu, is what I'd say. He's up against it because he has a lot of people shouting in his ear about wanting this and wanting that and wanting the other. But I think he's better than some we've had. And I think he does a pretty good job. But yeah, I guess he gets. I guess in that position, no matter what you do at the club, you do what you're told. I don't think you have free rein to do what you want. So that would be my answer, Mitch, in a nutshell.
Yeah, there's probably a set protocol that he's asked to follow. You cannot win, because for everybody who says that, there's probably somebody who would say, "Well, where's all the music gone at the end of the game?" You cannot win. I would love sometimes pre-match for the crowd to be allowed to develop their own, but kind of war flags is taking a lot of that over now as well. So it's all kind of orchestrated. Yeah, very rustly sweet, Dad, mine. Gee, mate.
Yeah, George, I'll put you on pause, George. We can hear you chomping away. I'll just put you on mute.
So you probably kind of do right for doing wrong. I did notice the last time I was at the ground, post match, it was very loud, and noticeably up a couple of decibels from what I remember it. And I don't think that's me just getting old. I think it was definitely noticeably different. But that might also suggest that the PA system's been upgraded, because that needed doing anyway. And you're right, he's done better than many. When Alan Robson used to do it, it was all about Alan Robson. It was all about the flashing blade. And it can't be that, it can't be all about the announcer. Once it gets like that, announcers usually end up getting the sack, like what happened at Liverpool. But yeah, you probably kind of do wrong for doing right. You'll have a set way to do it. That's the way the club want it, probably. So I don't particularly mind it personally. And I think on Wednesday night, I was hoarse from all the shouting in the bar, let alone what was happening on the pitch. And it was fabulous to hear the crowd, on the telly over here. It was inspirational, actually. I've got to say.
I'll bring George in, who was doing his impression of Tony Mowbray there. Have you finished your tweet?
Yeah.
The question was about the music. People were saying it was a comment that was made that said, I'm getting sick of the match announcer drowning out the noise of the crowd at the end of the game. I mean, I think Rob Byron does a really good job. But I mean, what do you think? There's anything that could be changed with the pre-match or the post-match music?
No, I think Neil's right. You can't win. You cannot win for losing, or cannot lose for winning. You know, it's one of those situations. I think I could be wrong, but I imagine that somebody at the top will sit down with him and say, "This is what we're like to hear," and that's what he delivers, I suppose. I'd hope that was the case. If he as he has a freeze rein, then he's on a short run to getting the sack, isn't he? No, I think on the whole he doesn't do a bad job. You know, and it's a while since I've been in, and it didn't upset me out of the ordinary when you know, at all, really, and I don't see what's changed. So he's got a program. Let the lad do the program until somebody comes up with something better. But he cannot win, because as soon as you change it, somebody will not like it.
I've just seen something else breaking on a WhatsApp group that I'm in of Newcastle fans, and it's from the NUFC Spares Twitter account, actually. They've just said a huge step backwards by the club in removing the number of tickets remaining feature for away games from the website this week. Thousands of Newcastle fans rely heavily on this information to gain an understanding on whether they're likely to be successful in purchasing a ticket and subsequently the opportunity to book travel accommodation for games sooner. Please, could someone explain the reason behind the removal so soon after implementing it in the first place? So, as you know, just another ticketing issue at NUFC Trust, and at NUFC 2023 have been copied into that. One to keep an eye on, I guess, over the course of the next couple of hours, because I'm sure there'll be some interesting tweets going backwards and forwards there. But Steve, I mean, look, pre-match and post-match, I think we've got it right. I like the music that Rob plays. I was delighted at half time. I mean, I tend to stay in the ground at half time. I don't go down for a pint. But from my perspective, I love the fact he does seem to have a little bit of free rein at half time. I think the rest of the time it's fairly controlled. He has to play what he's told. But I think birthday request time, he gets a chance to play what he wants, and he played a bit of Bruce Springsteen and a bit of Bob Dylan. So I'm obviously going to be biased. Two of my favourite artists at halftime was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty much the same stuff he plays before the game, after the game, and when the players warming up as well. So I would imagine he's told to play those things, Steve.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Springsteen and Dylan, because I was exactly the same at halftime, Steve, when I came back through. I was delighted. I mean, post game, I think the criticism for moving on up, blasting out right at the end of the game, is that it doesn't give the fans enough time to get over their cheering and their applause and appreciation for the team. It goes straight into the music, and I think that's the gripe for a lot of fans, if there is a gripe at all, that they just don't get the opportunity to hear the crowd and that type of thing, and the players to appreciate it. Pre-game, different matter at all. My information's correct. Rob has a playlist that he's been provided with by certain people at the club that he has to play at a certain decibel. It has to be played slightly louder at one end of the ground to the other, believe it or not. All part of the little psyche and psyching out of the opposition that happens now and again in professional sport. And Rob, unfortunately, is part of that, in so much as what he plays and how he plays it in the warm-up is structured and specific. When the players go back in, however, he's allowed a little bit of free rein. And obviously we've got the standards. We often hear every now and again Thunderstruck. We're now and again here by AC/DC. We're now and again we'll hear Local Hero. The Bladen Races is often played, but again, sometimes it depends on the display and how early the display is going up with war flags. I think Rob's in a difficult position. And like all things, people muck around with the sliders, and you're going to get different volumes in different parts of the ground simply because there's lots going on. There's conversations that have to be had, and when you've got someone talking and then you go back to the music, there's a whole volume balance that often doesn't get reset. So, but I mean, The music itself, I'm fine with, but like I say, I think tying in with some of the gripes that I've heard from people, it's the speed in which the music comes in immediately after the game, and not giving the fans a chance to give the players their appreciation in the normal way, cheering, singing, etc., and just coming from the fans themselves.
I mean, the only thing he doesn't play is the clap clap song, which he should bring back. Remember that one? That was my favourite.
Steve. Wasn't going to mention it in case you wanted to sing it again.
Stu, the music. I mean, obviously, when you get over, you like to socialise before the game, but I'm sure you still hear the music. I mean, what is it? Is it your taste? Do you think Rob gets the pre-match right?
Yeah, drinking doesn't make you deaf,
Well, it doesn't. No.
It might eventually.
What?
Do you know what? I was actually going to the clap song, but you stole me thunder there. But there has been, I nearly said what Mitch said, is it because we're getting older? But take everything into consideration. There's not just one generation of fans in the ground. There's got to be 3 or 4 generations that go to the game. And you've got to try everyone, haven't you? It's especially now in this technological age where you've everything in your phone, you can get everything. Where we were happy with the clap song because we knew that the players were doing stuff like that. But yeah, it's I actually thought it has got louder, and some people have said, "Oh, it's just because you're getting older." I get that, but in Rob's defence, what I will say is I think he reads the room pretty well, and he plays like a good spectrum of songs, but also the right ones at the right time. Someone said Doris Day after the Southampton game. Was that not Vera Lynn? In case they're wrong.
Yeah, it was.
Doris Day.
Doris Day.
So I was wrong. There you go. There's the first live on the podcast. So it happens where yes, it can be loud. And the one thing I certainly agree with is what Mr. Hasty said there. As soon as the game finishes, let the atmosphere slowly fade away and put some music on. Some good. So much I could have said.
Don't.
It's like the usual Friday night. I thought I'd better not say anything. Right, so it was.
So the first time you've seen us with Pussy on a Friday night,
Anyway, going home music. As Steve said quite rightly. Yeah, I think the time delays in there as well. We've got the. So I'll finish this. You go down and grab the music play. There's the Muppets. Put that on. If not, let the fans acknowledge the players. Let the players give their respect to the fans for the cheers they've had, the support they've had throughout. Not blast something out straight away. But again, it's difficult if you're in that position. You want to be recognised. You want to be known. But it's not like a referee. If you're not doing your job good, if you do your job good, no one knows you're there. Maybe people are going for a song, but we grew up in simpler times. The clap song made us happy, didn't it? So if that made us happy, I'm not for all this AC/DC, Thunderstruck, whatever it's called. I don't like that. But Newcastle related songs, I think, are good things. And you have the Blade Races playing, and it builds up. I'm not too bothered. If this is the biggest thing we've got to debate after such a week we've had, then we're doing everything right.
Yeah, I agree. I've got to be honest. I do like the AC/DC one. It's synonymous with the area. Brian Johnson's a Geordie. It's something a bit different. But it's all down to personal taste. A lot of people are saying we should have Lindisfarne. Only Alan McKenzie has said let's get ready to rumble. Ian, the stadium announcer is located in the Leazes end of the ground, right at the top tier where you can see where the glass boxes are. You'll see about 4 in a row. You've got match day control where the police sit. You've got the police, and you've got a couple of little boxes as well. It used to have the media room up there. I'm not sure if that's sometimes where Sky go, but that's where they are anyway when you're in the ground. So you get a good view of them anyway, and you can usually see Rob. Rob's into the very small room. I've been in there a couple of times, and it's it doesn't have much space in it. Put it that way. Okay, 10 minutes until we'll come to the ads. There has been a few questions coming. Let's stick with the PSG game because John asks a question about Nick Pope. He says, were Pope's goal kicks tactical genius? He asks, and do a small minority of our supporters need to show a little more pre-match hospitality to continental visitors? Pope's goal kicks, yeah. I mean, somebody else asked this earlier and I lost the question, but they were asking about, there we go, mighty win, I found it. Anybody think Pope was deliberately kicking the ball into touch to waste time? 5 times, wasted nearly 6 minutes. Do you think that was tactical, George?
It wouldn't surprise me if it was, I'm afraid, in the modern day game, but I would like to think it wasn't. I'd hope it was a mistake trying to do something positive to get to a player. But if it was, it wouldn't surprise us at all in this day and age. In this modern game, apart from anything else, it was probably hacking it off the PSG players as much as anybody else. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise us if it was. It's a pity that it is like that, but that's modern football, I'm afraid. You play to win.
Yeah, you definitely do. Mark Bayer says, judging by Eddie's face, they weren't tactical genius. He was effing and blinding every time. Yeah. Was it a bit of game management, Mitch?
No, I think they'd identified something they wanted him to exploit with that kick, and he tried it 4 or 5 times and got it wrong every time. I think they were trying to expose Hernandez coming forward and get the ball behind him. And I think that the idea was to create a bit of havoc behind their back line while they were trying to press forward. And I think Pope misjudged the kick every time, and I think that's why you'd be upset. I think it was tactical, but I don't think the tactic was to waste time. I think the tactic was to get somebody in behind Hernandez.
Okay, Steve, what's your thoughts?
First time he did it, I thought, terrible kick. Second time he did it, I thought, terrible kick. Third time he did it, Dom turned to me and said, this has got to be a tactic, this. I said, well, he'll not do it again. And now did he do? He did it a 4th time, at which point I agreed with him and said, yeah, it's a tactic, this. What he was actually doing was the ball was going out and he was going to take the goal kick from, as you're facing the Gallagher end, he was taking it from the right and he moved it on the left-hand side and then immediately hooked it into the crowd on the left-hand side. Now I think he's taking it with his right foot, it's going across his body and he's hitting it to the short side. So at that point you think it's got to be tactical. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to try and hook the ball in the manner he was doing. And I think you could possibly be right, Mitch, in terms of he was aiming for Dan Burn every time. The fullback was coming towards him and he wanted Dan Burn to then knock it beyond him and hope that, I think it was by that point, Elliot Anderson was going to be able to get down the left. Or Gordon. But when it got to the 5th one, you're just thinking, what on earth is going on? Because it just smacked of showing yourself up, mate. You kind of kick a ball because that's what's going to come back on you. It's not, nobody's going to turn around other than us 3 days later saying it was tactical. Everybody's going to just immediately think, bloke kind of kick a ball because the vast majority of people around us was exactly that. Get him off. He kind of kick a ball. He's shocking, because we're leading PSG 4-1 or 3-1. I think was it 3-1 at the time?
It was 3-1 at the time. 3-1. Yeah. And
that's what, get him off. If he kind of kick a ball, he shouldn't be playing. I'm thinking, whoa, this is putting pressure on,
Like you, the 3rd time he did it, I was out there. I'm missing something here.
Yeah.
I'm missing something. I'm not seeing. Sorry, it wasn't Hernandez. It was the right back they were aiming at to get around the back of. And you're right, it was when Elliot Anderson was on.
Yeah.
And I think the idea was to try and put it in a place where Burn could flick it over and then get somebody in behind. And I'm convinced it was tactical, but not to waste time.
Yeah.
And Pope didn't execute it. And that's why Eddie and Tyndall looked really pissed off.
Yeah, and of course he got booked as well. In that spell, he got booked for time wasting by the referee because he picked the ball up and the referee just got sick of him walking right across the pitch again. And I think at one point he went and got another ball from it. And I mean, all of that type of thing. It's something that we've been targeted about and criticised a bit all last season. And I just thought to myself, you know what, we don't want this dragged into the European game as well, because we'll get a reputation for it.
That's the problem, because we've been accused of this by other managers in the Premier League. We get again under the microscope about it all.
Yeah.
And I'm damn sure if that was Alisson doing it, he wouldn't have got booked.
Yeah. And can I also point out that most clubs in Europe get a Homer referee? We didn't. Damn me, did we not have he was the most un-Homer of a referee. He was more Homer Simpson than Homer referee, wasn't he? Damn me, he was atrocious in terms of some of the decision making. I mean, if you went near a PSG player and the player went to ground, he got a free kick. If a PSG player went near one of our players and fouled him, we would rarely get the foul. I thought the referee had a really, really poor game. I think it was from Romania, and as were the other three. The fourth official and the two on the line, but I thought he had a poor game. The referee, to be perfectly honest, didn't have an equal, stance on both teams. He seemed to treat one team slightly better than the other, and on this occasion, he was treating the PSG with their reputation far better than we were getting, and that's something we're going to have to work on in Europe, because big clubs with big reputations and referees do get overawed. And I mean, if you went near Mbappe, he just had to look at him and he got a free kick. But it was the same for one or two of the others as well. And that was, if there was a disappointing side to the game, I think that was probably it. The referee. So,
Stu?
Well, on Thursday morning, I tried to work due to the alcohol consumed the night before. But I've got a good friend there and he referenced, I can't believe you're man and your goalkeeper's time wasting. I said, what do you mean he's time wasting? Moving the position where you kept.
Stu, your mic's cutting out quite a bit. Stu, your mic's cutting out. No, I don't want to miss what you're saying. It was doing it a little bit before, but I'm not sure what the situation is. It's been a bit of an issue there. So I don't know whether you've done something different or whatever, but it's really cutting out to the point where we can't hear you.
Is it clearer now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So if
everyone mutes their microphones, it might help Stu. I'm going to mute mine as well.
Yeah, sound like feedback as well. Right, so our Tottenham fans said to us at work Thursday morning that why was Pope wasting time? I says, what do you mean? He says he kept swapping which side he was taking his goal kick from, which I never had noticed at the time, to be honest. And then he kept kicking the ball out. He says, well, it's clearly a waste of time. So my reply was, if you think he's that accurate, he wouldn't be doing it, would he? He'd be kicking it to his own player. If he could find a position up the byline where he's going to aim for and kick it, he'd either be playing rugby in the World Cup or he'd be finding a Newcastle player. He's known for not being a good kicker. But what happens, and obviously you defend your own team, but what's happened since, I've watched Eddie Howe's press conference and things like that, and he referenced that he knew that they build from the back, and that's why he wanted to be on the front foot and do the press more against them. So if we're putting the ball out, even if they retrieve it quick, the chances are they're going to pass the ball back, go along the lane, and if we press it, that keeps the ball in their half for 60, 90 seconds, and that runs the clock down. But we're not running the clock down. They've chosen to, but we're not letting them come out. And that then goes back to what I said earlier, when you have four people in the line in midfield, it's easy to play through. But I'm maybe doing a disservice to Eddie Howe and his coaching staff, because they clearly do the homework. And that's not the type of style that PSG play, where they'll play it straight through the middle. They want to feed the wingers. When you've got Mbappe on one wing and Dembele on the other, it'd be remiss not to use them, wouldn't it? So it could be very, very tactical that they're aiming, and if it wins, as Mitch said, Dan Burns up there to get the flick on, and then Gordon can use his pace. But for me, I think it's just a mixture of bad kicking. And if you are going to make a mistake, make sure it's near the byline so we don't lose out.
Okay, great stuff. We are halfway through the show. Go and make a cuppa, get yourself to the loo, whatever you need to do. It is time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can order yours today by emailing info@mrvickys.co.uk or telephoning 01768 210 102. Or go to the website, mrvickys.co.uk. A big thanks as well to United Group Travel. They are a UK coach holiday firm based in Morpeth. For just £30 deposit, you can book a trip across the UK. There are no strangers on their buses, just friends you haven't met yet. They're taking bookings now for 2024 tours, and you can call them on 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174 or 07957 141 654. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. And a big thanks as well to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. Please subscribe to the channel. All you need to do is hit the subscribe button. It's free. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel financially, why not take out a one-off £25 membership? What do you get for your money? You get a scarf, you get a pen, you get a membership card, and a cup, and you get entry into the monthly draw. How do you do it? Go to NUFCmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, put your smartphone over this QR code, and it will take you straight there. We also support the food bank on this channel. How do we do it? We do it virtually. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the website. If you want to make a virtual donation today, go to that website and you can top up what they collect at the food bank outside the ground. We always advertise events on this channel as well. If you've got an event to advertise which has got a Newcastle United theme, please let us know. An evening with Frank Clark and John Gibson takes place at the Irish Centre. Tickets are £15. NUFCmatters.com for your tickets. The Tyne Theatre and Opera House are holding an event with Keegan, Beardsley and Waddle, the class of 84, 25th of January 2024. And you can book now 0844 249 1000. That's 0844 249 1000. If you go to NUFCmatters.com as well, we've got a couple of raffles ongoing. The Alan Shearer signed ball raffle, £1 a ticket. And the Kieran Trippier picture, £1 a ticket for that as well. And once the tickets are sold, the draw will be done. We've also got some T-shirts, which you can buy. The latest one, the latest hot seller is this one. Geordie's on tour. I've never seen a Mackem in Milan T-shirt with all of our Champions League fixtures on the back. Get yourself to NUFCmatters.com. Buy one today. And don't forget the Northeast Brekkie Show, 7 till 9, Monday to Friday on tuneradio.co.uk. You can also get us on DAB Radio, smart speakers, app, and online.
I've just been told off by Bev from United Group Travel. Said, stop telling people to go and have a cuppa when the adverts are on. That's when we're adverts on. So 500 people didn't listen to us, Bev. So there you go. Consider us told off. Okay, as always, we have a lot of segments to get through. It is time for Tweet of the Week. Liverpool have been getting some stick this week. Here's a victim card. Offended by everything, ashamed of nothing. Mr. Bin Dipper, Bank of Scroungers. Yes, I've sent that quite a few times this week. And this one, you'll never walk crossed out, alone crossed out. Here, the end of it. That's the VAR decision, of course, in that game against Tottenham, which has dominated headlines this week. I was doing a crossword in the pub and said to me Scottish mate, I'm stuck on one. Trapped on a desert island, 8 letters starting with M. He said, marooned. I said, thanks, I'll have a pint of lager then.
Hey!
I love it. Classic. A minute's silence is going to be observed at all next weekend's Premier League fixtures in honour of Liverpool's disallowed goal. First time in history of VAR being wrong. Our thoughts go to the victims of Liverpool Football Club. Kieran, yeah, it does feel like that, mate. I love these picture ones. A beach, the ocean, sky, and stars. If you see a beach, the ocean, sky, and stars, you either have the mind of an artist or you need a vacation. It is actually the bottom of a car door that needs fixing. That's good, isn't it? It's really good, that one, yeah. This one was sent in, I think, because the new Stu is going to be on the show. I've never been to America, but I've been in some states. Good old Rabsy. No, he's Welsh. And Bono and the Edge walk into a bar, and the barman says, "Oh, God, not you two again."
Yeah.
And when you leave them strawberries sitting in the back of the fridge all month. I thought that was a lookalike at first. I thought it was George.
It's a jumper, isn't it?
Yeah, it looked like George. Anyway, no exit from the burial site.
Well, you hope.
And family planning advice, use rear entrance.
Oh, dear me.
Finished in a plot.
Why did the chicken join a band? Because it had the drumsticks. And celery, when you have that sudden urge to bite into water with hair in it.
Yes.
Yes.
And I may be getting old, but I can still spot safety violations. This man has no hard hat, no safety glasses, and no hearing protection. Oh, and no gloves.
Oh, God.
Least of his worries there.
And sweet cat of mine, where do we go, meow? Where do we go, meow? I fainted in the curry house when I heard R.E.M. had split up. That's me in the coma. These ladies in the supermarket thought I was crazy because I yelled, "Thank you for being a friend." There you are. There's your music. There's your musical interlude this week, people. Thanks to Stephen for this one. Sunderland are shite as part of the drone. It's pity Seller didn't do that. Or have you ever seen a Macam in Milan? Meanwhile, outside Craven Cottage last week before they got the win, they tweeted this. Pizza sold since Chelsea's last league goal, 9,914,100. This was a thing that they tweeted, Domino's, and they placed that as a clever advertising campaign outside Stamford Bridge. This one from Jimmy. They say a banana a day cleans your colon. Then I found out you're meant to eat them. And another one from Jimmy. When you realise you're never going on a walk again.
Poor dog.
And another one from Jimmy. If this isn't Mike Tyson's Tesla, I'll eat my shoe. Tesla, of course. And first ever photograph of a newly hatched electrician with the eggshell still on the top of its head.
Very good. Very good.
And another one from Jimmy. Glory Hole, a recreation area a quarter of a mile away. Jimmy been up there, I think. And this one from Brian. Slow news day. Woman sues Disney theme park over claims water slide gave her a painful wedgie.
Oh, dear me.
We do like these Blackpool ones. Keep them coming. Noah, where will I put the bees? In the archives.
Oh, dear me.
And, I didn't realise you're European. Did you bring an adapter along? And have you finished painting the porch? Yes, but it's not a Porsche, it's a BMW.
Oh.
Thanks, Ian. And another one from Ian. I only wanted a single rose, but the nice man offered to do me a bunch of 12 for the price of one. And Phil, you still working at that lab delivering urine samples? No, I got promoted. Now I'm the stool pigeon. And when you finally get a girlfriend, but you forgot you don't have to blow her up. Cheers, Jimmy. Tweet of the week as well from Jimmy. Didn't realise things were this bad. Muff wash. And just remember, every fork in Wetherspoons has been in a mouth like this.
Oh, one for Mitch.
I've said this a few times as well. So you want to boo my national anthem? King Charles at the VAR. And apparently, if you hold a shell pump to your ear, you can hear the shareholders laughing at you after this week's petrol rises in the UK. And HS2 has been popular this week. Government unveils revised plans for the northern leg of HS2. And don't judge a man until you've walked a mile in his shoes. Unless he wears those weird toe shoe things, you may judge that man immediately.
Correct.
And hello, can I have a wake-up call, please? Of course, sir. You're a scruffy wazzick, always looking for excuses. You can replay this too. Anything else I can do, sir? Last few. Showing up to work still drunk from last night. That's a few Newcastle fans after the PSG game.
Yeah.
And if you think you're having a bad day, think about this guy who left his balls on a fence. And just like that, I lost my new job at the local bakery.
Oh, dear me. Thank you.
Just bought a top-of-the-line hearing aid for $7,000. Really? What kind is it? $1,230. And Margaret, for the last 30 years, all you've done is find mistakes in everything I say. 31 years.
Yeah.
Every married man.
Worst amusement park ever, lads. Palletland. And tweet of the week from Stephen Moore, another Just Stop Oil protester.
At Everton as well.
When you're writing the BBC News live blog and someone interrupts you to take your breakfast order, coming at number 2 from Scott. Friday, 2 slices of pineapple and a hash brown in between the main news and the live.
Fantastic.
But the winner this week was from Johnny Sharples. They spent so long wondering how Dan Burn would handle Paris Saint-Germain. They didn't stop to consider how Paris Saint-Germain would handle Dan Burn. Definitely tweet of the week this week. Thanks to everybody sending all them in. Thanks to Zara in particular, who sent us about 15 or 20 as usual. But if you've got one, send them to us on social media and we will get them featured. I'm going to go with it because George said he didn't want to talk about it. You'll have to unmute yourself, George, though. If you press your button, that's great. Mick Gilchrist says, I'm curious of the panel's thoughts about the England squad. On one hand, more of ours deserve a call-up. On the other, they get to rest and recuperate. With our pressing game, for me, I'd prefer resting. So Kieran Trippier, only man in the England squad. George, you weren't happy about this?
No. If it's going to be picked on merit, and that's how it should be, there should be at least 3 in. Trippier, Longstaff should be knocking on the door now. And I've got to say, after the start he's had to the season, Anthony Gordon can't be far away either when I see some of the dross that's in that lineup he's picked. So, yeah, I just felt it was rather strange. But the plus side is everybody keeps saying is they're getting a rest. They're not getting hauled around by the England trainers, and that isn't always a good thing. We've seen the state of some of them coming back from the World Cup. Some of them weren't very fit. So, yeah, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. But I do think it's in terms of playing on merit and playing in the way they have. I mean, 5 clean sheets and a single goal against the top team in Europe. That means more than Kieran Trippier, surely. And Nick Pope must have a shout, despite this business about his kicking. Now I understand it. I can see why he was kicking where he was kicking. But no, I just find it bizarre. We're going slowly but surely, going back to the days when if you lived north of Manchester, you're not going to get an England shirt, or very rarely get an England shirt. I mean, you go all the way back to Ivor Broadus, played for it, and all of a sudden his England career came to an end. And when he was asked how he felt about it, he says, well, I knew it was coming because I heard the Blazers talking about it. Well, the Blazers he was talking about was the selectors, because the selectors were club chairman. And he only picked players that they thought they might buy or sell or whatever. So things haven't changed very much in my view. Southgate really is... I don't know. People keep saying he doesn't have favourites, but please, somebody tell me how Harry Maguire gets in game after game after game after game without question. It just doesn't make sense, not in a football way anyway. So, yeah, I wasn't going to talk about it because I knew I would get upset about it. But you could go through other players who really have been doing that, running their socks off for us. And I've mentioned 2 or 3 of them, but I don't know. Maybe it also says to me, Elliot Anderson made the right choice by going to Scotland, because the chances of him getting a career with England were limited, whether he was a good player or not, in my view.
Yes, George.
Sorry?
He hasn't went.
He hasn't?
No, not yet.
Well, he will, and I'll kick him up the arse when I see him. Yeah. Anyway, it's just a mess. And the England manager's just, I don't know what he's doing. He's making a fool of himself as much as anything else. But if your England cap's got to be on merit, then that squad he's picked, there ain't much merit in it, I'm afraid. And that's the problem for me. And it just doesn't hurt our lads. There's others as well. But particularly at the moment, if we hadn't been playing so well, but we have been, 5 clean sheets, single goal against Paris Saint-Germain. That's a lot of energy and a lot of good football not getting rewarded at all. So yeah, it's a laugh, to be honest. But like everybody's saying, the upside is they get 2 weeks to get ready, get fresh again, and that can't be a bad thing.
All right, Mitch, what about you?
As Geordies, I think we constantly feel conflicted. As a board of people, and if you believe one of the stories about why we're called Geordies, we're King George's men.
Yeah.
The access from Newcastle to Durham and the city of the Prince Bishops that stay loyal to the crown, while everybody around wanted not to stay loyal to the crown, be that with the Jacobites or be that with the parliamentarians. And yet we're constantly ignored by London, we're constantly overlooked by London, we're constantly taken for granted by London. We're fiercely English as people can be. And it's why, we feel very proud when one of our guys gets called up to the England squad. And yet we know we get looked over. We get looked over by governments, we get looked over in so many ways. It's why Brexit is a disaster for us, because whose money rebuilt a lot of the Tyne? Well, it was from Brussels, it wasn't from bloody London. That's for bloody sure. And while they were awarding cities of culture to other cities that didn't deserve it, we then went on and did more events than the city that wanted it did, etc., etc. And yet, as a Newcastle fan, in my youth, getting called up for England meant you would be sold soon. And I didn't want any players called up for England because they'd be off. And we saw Waddle, Beardsley, Gascoigne, and everybody go. The minute they got recognition that they were due, bye. It's different now. We look at our players and say, hey, if you're picking this squad on merit, your squad's bullshit. Because they're not picking on merit, Gareth. I don't care what you say. You could make an argument for Pope. You could make an argument for Lascelles. What Lascelles has done in the last few weeks, is that any better than what Guai, the young lad at Crystal Palace, has done? I would say so. So if you're picking on merit, he should be in the bloody squad. If you're picking on merit, we're short of left backs in the country. Good God, Dan Burns probably done enough to put his hat into the ring there. And he's probably not even my best left back. And then you come into midfield, Longstaff deserves a call-up if you're going to pick on merit. Gordon, why is he not even in the under 21s? He might be too old now. He might have gone past the threshold where you can put people in there. I'm not sure. Because I know he was in the squad at the summer as an overage player. But either way, for him to get no recognition at all seems odd. Wilson's maybe been omitted because we've asked them not to consider him because he's carrying a knock. So you can take that. But again, he should be in the mix. And you could probably make an argument for 2 or 3 other of our English players as well. if you're going to pick on merit, Gareth Southgate repeatedly says he picks on merit. He doesn't. He picks the players he's used to working with, that he's worked with before when he was under 21 manager. He picks the players he knows, he picks the players that he's comfortable with. And right now, you know what? That does me fine. I care more about keeping my players fit for Newcastle United than I do about them going into an England team. And that, as an Englishman, is a fierce Englishman. And Stu will tell you this. I know Stu and I disagree on very few things, but he's very much a Scot, a Geordie, but a Scot. And I'm English. And the only time we've ever come close to falling out was at a rugby game. and that was more me and my stupid bloody pride. And I constantly feel conflicted when it comes to England squads. Because right now, I don't give a monkey's that they're not in the England squad. As a player, as a professional, they should be getting the recognition that they're due. And they won't get it. And if it's because they play for Newcastle United, well then, fuck you. Sorry, it's the second time I've said that tonight. But, you know, I really don't care. I'd rather have our players fit for Newcastle United with the fixtures that we've got coming up. And sod Newcastle United. Sod England. Sod England. It's about Newcastle United for me at the minute. And so, let's see, which is a shame, because we have players who should be getting a far bigger recognition.
Steve, what's your take on the England selection? Only Trippier picked, no Pope. I mean, strange that really, to see Pope suddenly falling out of favour. It does us a favour with Callum Wilson. He's carrying this knock, and I don't think being selected for England was the right thing. Basically they know what he can do. Watkins has scored a couple of hat-tricks, and obviously Southgate needs to have a look at Watkins, so that didn't really concern me as much. Anthony Gordon, well, he's on the fringes, I think, but I think that'll be left for another England manager. I can still see Southgate leaving at the end of the next tournament. But yeah, what do you think?
I'm not that concerned. I, as I said earlier, I'm just delighted that some of our key players are getting a rest. Gordon in particular is getting slightly longer rest because of his suspension. I suppose if anything would go against Anthony Gordon, it would be the fact that he does pick up bookings, and it's something that you can't, especially Gareth Southgate. It would be something Gareth would put a black mark against him for. If you're looking for a way of holding somebody back, it would be something like that when it gets to the England point. But Gareth's not an international manager. He works on club manager mentality. You know, he feels so he's got to...
Didn't stop England managers picking Dennis Wise, Stu.
Oh, no.
Steve, rather, sorry.
No, but what it does is with Gareth is that it means that he can sit back and just remain loyal, because he doesn't have to go and look for players, doesn't have to go and seek out players. It's as though he's got his squad for the season, and then that's it. One or two changes that are basically enforced, and he relies on his coaching team to go out and say, right, well, we'll bring Ollie Watkins in, and there's a little bit of pressure there from some of the London press and the Southern press, because the lads scored a few goals, and there's been, in the last fortnight, there's been a sort of a big thing on Match of the Day about him, and on Sky, like look at the form he's in, etc. That sort of pressure. Anthony Gordon hasn't had that, despite the fact that for the last 5 or 6 games he's played out of his skin and probably consistently been our best player. Although in the last 2 games, Bruno's come back into the absolute tip-top form that we knew he had. But I honestly do think that Southgate looks at it that way. What I find disturbing with Southgate is that he's found places for Harry Maguire. He's found place for Saka, who was injured. Saka came off in midweek, and I listened to the sycophants talking on the radio this morning about Saka's injury, and about, well, it's good that he's getting into the England squad and all that. And you're going, well, in one respect, you've just been turning around saying how good it is and how youngsters need to play no more than X number of games a season, and players have got to have their rest. And then the same person was saying, oh, he's got to play in the internationals as well. And you're thinking, this is just blowing my mind. Basically, that whatever comes out the mouth or whatever's in the head just comes out of the mouth at that time. They don't engage the brain. And I'm talking about people like Martin Keown, for example. absolute tosh that they come out with. So purely selfishly, from a Newcastle United stance, I'm delighted the lads are getting a break. I'm delighted they're getting a rest. I'm not really bothered. It's not my place for to say that, for example, Sean deserves this or Sean deserves that. Only Sean knows what he deserves, and only Sean knows what he wants. And the same goes for Dan Burn. You mentioned that we're short a left back, we're short a centre back as well. He could slot in there as well. But it's that sudden bias. It's always existed all the way from schoolboy football, and has done for 50 years, 60 years, and will carry on being like that.
Stu, obviously you're a token Scotsman, but you're a Newcastle fan. I mean, are you happy to see that none of the others are in? Trippier's in. Obviously, he's an ever-present, more or less, in Southgate's team. But surprised to see that none of the others are in.
I thought it was my knowledgeable insight I was invited on for, not for being a token Scotsman, but never mind. What I was going to say, because of that, to be fair, I've got to be cautious or conscious of what I'm saying, because I really don't give two figs about England and the football team, because for as long as I can remember, it's the same old argument. Players are picked not on form that they should be in. So I can very sweetly fall into the camp that it suits me, because then Longstaff can get a rest. Anthony Gordon, on the other hand, I think it's dangerous for him to have a rest. I think he's the type of player that needs to keep his momentum and needs to keep playing. I think that's when you get the best out of him. But for Longstaff, definitely. But what we have to take into consideration is the players' own ambitions. And any professional footballer should want to represent their country. And if they're not going to get picked, it's quite clear why they're not going to get picked. And I don't want to waste too much time on it, because I've got a little battery on this, so I'm going to have to swap phones. But when you have people who can't get games for the club, and you've got people who are playing out of their skin, it's happened for decades. It's not just a new thing. And what we have to do is take this, it's just because it's Newcastle. It's not just because it's Newcastle. There's a certain few clubs that will always have players picked. As soon as you go to them, you're gonna be in the England squad. And if we use Phillips, for example, a player who I rate highly, and I've said on this platform many times, I would have loved him to play for Newcastle. He's played 5 games in 2 years and been booked in 3 of them, I believe, for Manchester City, but consistently being picked. And the issue I've got with the England-Scotland debate, and I don't know why Mitch brought up the rugby, because I can't remember the last time England beat Scotland at rugby, this is why, in my opinion, England won't win something, and they've got a pool of players that are more than capable of winning a major tournament. They genuinely have, and it's not just this pool of players. This is probably, I would say, the 3rd time in my lifetime that England have taken a squad of players, or had potential to take a squad of players to the tournament and win it. Go out and win it. And it's a bit like what Newcastle are now, but where we are capable of winning a trophy. But I'm more confident Newcastle win a trophy before England, because we've got a manager who will manage, and we've got a manager who will play the players that were in form. And I just, it's not pity, but for someone like Sean Longstaff, more him, because he's more deserving of an England call-up. Because if you look at the people in his position, you've got Jordan Henderson kicking about in...
Yeah, absolutely.
Not getting the game. Where is the desire? Where is the motivation to think, if you keep playing, you can play for your country? Now, yes, I'm conscious, and I've seen the things, he's just sweaty, this, that, and the other. But I come from where 5 years ago, if you could kick a football and you could sing Flower of Scotland, you got picked for the Scotland team. That's not the case now either, but that's because they've got a club mentality, and that's why they're massively overachieving. And England have this expectancy when they go there. We know that the media like to build them up, then knock them down. We know that every single tournament. But it is white noise, and they should just be going there with the best pool of players. But when you've got people like James Ward-Prowse, Sean Longstaff, who are ripping it up over the last 5-6 games. You should be picking your best players to win a team, but it's wrong just to blame Southgate because he's not the only England manager that's been guilty of this. It's happened for decades where every England manager has, okay, I'll pick him. Yes, have your core of players, but where is the aspiration to say, you play well, you get the team? Okay, you play well, you get the England squad. You can play out your skin and you're not going to get the England squad. So, yes, it suits Newcastle, but unfortunately, I don't see it changing anytime soon. And that's the sad thing, because England do have a pool of players that are capable of winning the tournament.
Okay, half an hour to go. Time for Tune Lookalike. And first in, Jacob, he says, Steve Wraith, I spotted Keith in party mood on Wednesday night. It's definitely the kind of glasses that Keith would be wearing, but it looks a little bit low. That he was up in level 7, I think, with John. It was like emergency ward 10 for them two trying to get to the top of there. Tino and Sam Fender from Tom Dixon. Pretty good, mate. He was at the match as well on
Very good, that.
On Wednesday. Steve Cram and Curly Watts, aka Kevin Kennedy. And one from Rita, Vincent Company and Rob Earnshaw. And me again, yes, Simon. This guy, the trainer who's in the photographs, it is a good one, but we'll keep getting compared. Ben Jacobs and a red-faced monkey.
Oh, poor Ben. Oh.
And this one from Rita.
I thought that would be Rita. You didn't have to say who it was from, Steve.
No apology this week. Here's a lovely photo of Steve Hasty and George at Newcastle Theatre.
Yep, I like that.
I live with that one.
And Tune Lookalike, Halloween Hasty from Jimmy Moore.
Oh, Jimmy, how way.
And me again, except it's the Wraith twins from Albert, who's been fairly conspicuous by his absence in recent weeks, but he's back with a bang with that one. This one as well. Pretty good. Pretty good, yeah. The guy looks off his head. Hasty, why always me, says Jimmy Wilson.
Aye. Good, that.
And that bloke from Veronica Mars and Robert Richard, Patrice Evra. I mean, that is pretty good.
It is.
Yeah.
That is a good lookalike.
That's a real lookalike.
We've got some good ones this week. Tom Dixon, Eddie Howe and Luke Donald, the golfer.
Very good. Yeah.
And Zachary Quinto and Seth Fabregas, which we've had a couple of times.
Yeah.
Dean Jones said, were you on Strictly last night? Steve Hasty.
Brilliant.
And Zayn Malik and Neymar Jr.
Yep, see that.
Another one we've had a few times as well, but it's always worth showing. Hughes, Johan Cruyff and Trigger.
Yes.
Brilliant, that's. Cheers, Yogi. And Dominic Skir and Bruce Foxton.
Yeah.
Definitely in the face. Steve Hasty getting ready for Halloween.
Wow.
From Broken Flask. And here we are, we're going into the top five? Top 5. Pike and Keir Starmer. Number 4, Sterling and Raymond the Bastard.
Yeah,
I can see it. Number 3, Jordan
Definitely.
Cronin and Andrew Wymont,
Yep.
aka Kirk from Coronation Street.
Watch.
Number 2, Charlie from Casualty and Paul Scholes, says Jacob.
We've never had that one. That's interesting, that
It's
one.
not bad.
Coming in at number 2, but number 1 for me this week is from Sutty. Graham Jones and George Costigan from Rita Sue and Bob 2.
Very good.
Aye.
Excellent,
Very
that.
Yeah.
Well done, Sutty. You are the winner this week. Thanks for sending them in. If you've got a lookalike, send it to the usual place. couple of other things I got sent this week. Pete, thanks for this. What else have you got in your pockets, Dad? Mbappe's shirt, very good. And a couple of photos in our WhatsApp group. There's Spenny. And that was Barcelona.
Yeah.
3-2. And then in Barcelona, Steve Hasty.
Oh.
Thanks for sending that, Steve. The young Steve Hasty. Some good photographs there.
Yeah,
and I did receive this from you, Chris. We can't get the video, mate. Unfortunately, we can't play the video. He says, "Hi, Steve. I've got a video. Took off the telly of the commentary of Miggy's goal where I live. I watch ESPN's coverage from Argentina. The commentator is well known for making up songs about the goal scorer. You may have seen clips before. I found this one especially funny as it was our song about Miggy. I couldn't share it on Facebook as they took it off for copyright purposes. I hope you're allowed to share it on the show." Well, we couldn't have done because we would have got done for copyright as well. But I couldn't get the video anyway, unfortunately. But there we go.
I've seen it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I'll share it with you, Steve.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Ray sent us a message today, and it was, "Hi, Steve. Hope you're well. I'm sure you're on cloud nine like all of us after that magnificent performance. So I've just had an idea for a discussion for you and the lads, Mitch, Stu, and George, etc. He said it would be nice to hear about Eddie's staff, who they all are and what they do, etc. He says, given our meteoric success, to recognise them, just a thought, mate." So, Ray, we managed to squeeze it in. Mitch went off and did a little bit of research today. So, Mitch, can you give us a little rundown on Eddie's boys?
I can, and I think this dovetails very nicely because I saw an interview with Eddie. I don't know if it was after the Burnley game, where he said he could, in one of the press conferences, he said he could hear people chanting his and Tyndall's names, but he said he wanted it all to go on the pitch, and he wanted it all to go to the players rather than the backroom staff. But I do think they all do need a little bit of praise for where we're at. I think obviously the first one to talk about is Jason Tyndall, who obviously everybody knows. He genuinely seems to be to Eddie Howe what Peter Taylor was to Brian Clough. And the two of them are somehow synergistic. When they're together, it works better. Because, I think that was shown when Tyndall took over at Bournemouth after Eddie Howe left and it didn't go so well. That as a number one, he wasn't as good, as an assistant. But the pair of them certainly seem to share a common bond. There was a thread on Twitter recently where it was all about Premier League managers going out for a drink, and that Eddie Howe always brings Tyndall with him, and nobody asks him to bring Tyndall with him, but Tyndall always comes. And the interesting thing about Jason Tyndall, when I did a little bit of digging, his background, he's from a proper footballing family. His dad helped set up a football club in London that's had Sol Campbell, John Terry, Jermaine Defoe, Ledley King through the club. And as a footballer, his career was ended by injury, a bit like Eddie Howe. And effectively, everywhere Eddie's been, Tyndall's came along. Bournemouth, Burnley. And he had a stint at Sheffield United as assistant manager until Eddie took the Newcastle job. And I think there's certainly something there in their working relationship, but also in their relationship off the pitch, whereby as a pair, they work better. Yes, Walkman-wise, you name the duo, that's what they are. And I think that's at the very least what we can say about Jason Tyndall.
Okay. The rest of the coaching staff, I know very little about them, and I think that was one of the. I think that is there anybody else who you managed to pick up on? And
plenty. Look at Graham Jones. You talk about Graham Jones. He almost like a Geordie father figure, and I think that's where we get more out of him than he would maybe get out of him in other clubs. Not just about his experience as a coach. Let's bear in mind Southgate took him to England. And we were close to losing the England setup full time. That's how well he's regarded. There's a suggestion he did more coaching and managing than Bruce did when he was at the club under Bruce. The fact that Eddie then kept him on, and again there's a Bournemouth connection there, makes a huge statement. But I think what he can deliver if you need to get across to a player like Tonali about what it means to play for Newcastle, of all the coaches at the club, he's the one that probably could. And we know people in other areas who deal with the club regularly, who interact with Graham Jones regularly. And I've never heard a bad word said about him at all. Nobody's got a bad word to say about Graham Jones. He seems to be a positive influence wherever he goes. So, you know, you take that away. Stephen Purchase, who's one of the coaches that he's brought with him before, another former Bournemouth connection, former player. I think he had his playing career at Bournemouth was so long, I think he got a testimonial there. And I think the word for him would be safe pair of hands. I think he's seen as somebody who knows the game well, and can very easily get the message across to players. Now, one personality that we've seen when we were in Riyadh was Simon Weatherston, and personality is the word I would use. He was put up on the stage with the players when we were doing the Q&A in Riyadh, and if anybody is the heart and soul of the dressing room, I would suggest it's him. He might be the most bang average football coach in the world, but his attitude and his personality, you talk about you need somebody there who's positive but not toxically positive. That's him. And him and Murphy and Lascelles, when they were on the stage answering questions together, were box office. Box office. No doubt about it. And you can see where the heartbeat of the dressing room comes from, and it's having people like that around. We've got a goalkeeping coach in Sean Jalal, Kurdish-British. Interesting one, brought in, they went out with their way to get him. And again, there's a Bournemouth connection there. And after he retired from the game, he's an England C international, so he sort of worked at that sort of upper amateur, lower professional game really, really well. But he's obviously an individual that we're keen to get in. Now, I know Ben Smith out here, who's Simon Smith, former goalkeeping coach's son. And Simon left after a long time at Newcastle. And I spoke to Ben about he's leaving Newcastle, and Ben actually said, I can't talk about him, mate. He's subject to an NDA. He's left us with an NDA, like many people do from jobs. I did from one of my jobs, that I couldn't talk about the practices and the way they worked, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's not uncommon. And fair play to Ben for not breaching that. He wouldn't even talk to us off the record about it. But they went out of their way to bring this lad in. And again, there's obviously something about the way he goes about his business that Eddie Howe likes. The one that fascinates me most is Nick Grantham, and I think that's the lad that you get accused of looking like in the pictures. Nick is a conditioning coach, and he literally wrote the book on it. Literally. His book is the Sports Conditioning Bible. And he's worked with the FA, he's worked with the British Olympic Association, Commonwealth Games. Hello, Frank. Fuck off. He's worked at the Commonwealth Games. I've actually met him at a couple of FIFA conferences when I've been at those, the medical conferences. He's currently doing a lot of work with Nike as well, with their athletes. I believe he's currently giving advice to Tiger Woods about recovering from his badly broken legs and conditioning his legs back to full fitness. And he's in our back room. That's not just someone who's good. That's someone who is world class. And these are the people we are appointing right now. Want to know why we're the fittest team in the Premier League? The guy that wrote the book on it is currently our sports and conditioning trainer.
Yeah.
And he's a good-looking
now
lad.
It starts to make sense. You know.
I know Nick actually. Nick worked with me nephew
Right.
at the soccer place at Gosforth Park where Kenny Dalglish set up with I think it was Paul Bracewell. There was Paul Bracewell, Kenny Dalglish. Nick worked there when he first started off, and Paul Winsper, who was at Newcastle at the time with Smithy as a goalkeeping coach. They were the five people, and Paul, Smithy, and Nick. And Nick was just starting off and just finishing his studies. And I tell you who else was there at the time, Robbie Elliott. And the connection with Nike and Robbie and such like that rolled forward. And as I say, my nephew worked with them for a while, and then was going to go into physiotherapy of all things, but then found a slightly different career path. But I kept in touch with Nick over the years, and actually just emailed him not too long ago just to see how it was going at Newcastle, and said, yeah, I'm still there and still very much into that strengthening conditioning that we talked about. And I think that's an area, I think, of all of the strength that Newcastle United have as a squad is down to him. It's down to his professionalism, and it's down to what he has been able to bring. And obviously Eddie spotted that, because Nick was involved with Newcastle in the past, and then he moved on, and you know, he ran his own consultancy, as you say, and did an awful lot of work outside of football, right across lots of sports. But for Newcastle, and I think he's been there almost from the day that Eddie came, if not slightly earlier. But strength and conditioning was obviously one of those things that Eddie's played a lot of faith in, and put a lot of faith in, and boy, has it paid off.
Yeah, and why not have the world's best,
Exactly.
our backroom staff to do it?
And someone who was on my doorstep anyway. That's the other thing. A local lad, well, slightly local in terms of lives here, but on my doorstep as you say, one of the world's finest. It's amazing how things go around as well. The connections and the spin-offs and how it rolls back. And I mean, at the time, Paul was involved. Paul Winsper, wasn't he involved with John Carver, Stu, and went over to Canada with him to Toronto. Yeah. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if at that particular time Nick had some involvement there. So there's a wheel within a wheel always, and that's the nature of football, because it is a very small family at the end of the day, and we're reaping the benefits from the names that you've rattled off and more.
Well, the only other one I was worth mentioning was the Polish lad, Karol Petraitis, who came in. He's a football analyst, and basically the Polish FA single-handedly pointed the finger at him for why they qualified for the Qatar World Cup.
Yeah,
and then within 36 hours of the World Cup finishing, he was on Newcastle United's books. And so it shows that we are aware of who the movers and shakers in the football world are, and we are not frightened to go after the best that we can get, to say, right, come and work with us, come and bring your skills to our table, and how can you make us a better team? The way football clubs these days are using data and analysis, not just for players, but for how games progress and how games can predict outcomes of games, etc. It's clear that the more data you can gather and the better you are at using that data helps a manager make more decisions that are correct. And so if you add that we've got people who are world class in certain elements of the game, is it any wonder then we can welcome PSG to St James's Park and stick it right up the Maginot Line?
I tell you what, Steve, I was just going to say, I don't normally push other people's podcasts, but Mitch mentioning data there, and our friend put up a really, really good podcast this week, Mr. Jacobs, where he spoke to the guy from Infinite Athlete, who are the sponsors of Chelsea. Now, I wasn't aware of what that company was, and there's been an awful lot of things said about that company in terms of they have no history or whatever. It's basically a brand name for something that's been going on for a long, long time. And they are heavily into the data. They're heavily into all aspects of data around sports clubs. And it's 25 minutes. I did message Ben last night to say I thought it was a fantastic podcast. And if for no other reason, obviously what was said was very, very interesting, but for no other reason than Ben barely got a word in edgeways in 25 minutes, which was a miracle in itself. And Ben did reply and goes and shrugged his shoulders a little much. We had a bit of a laugh about it. But tell you what, well worth listening to. If you want to listen, you want to try and get a grasp of how important data is and how important it's going to be, not just for statistics, for people playing Football Manager or people going on and say what was the possession like in this, that, and the other, but right across the whole aspect of a club. This guy does pinpoint you to it.
Great stuff. Thanks for suggesting that, Ray, and thanks to Mitch for doing a little bit of homework this afternoon and just looking through the list and coming up with
Steve, can I quickly come in?
We've got 10 minutes, George, so if it's quick, yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, what I'd suggest to people is if you want to see who the players regard the club, look at who they talk to when the match is over. Look who they go to when they go off the pitch. Graham Jones is top of that list by a mile.
Yeah. Great stuff. Good point, well made. Okay, time to look ahead to this weekend's game. West Ham away on Sunday. Here's Toon Stato.
Hello all. What a night on Wednesday. A game for the ages against Paris Saint-Germain. It will go down in history. Now back to the Premier League on Sunday against West Ham, one of our favorite oppositions in the Premier League lately. In the last 8 games against them, we have lost only once back in August 2021, which, by the way, is our last defeat at St. James's Park against opposition outside the top 6. Now it's more than 2 years that we have lost only against the so-called big guns. In these last 8 games, we have won 4 and drawn 3, including the famous 5-1 in London last year. Callum Wilson in particular seems to be doing very well against this lot with 12 goals in 13 games. Only a certain Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney have scored more against West Ham. For West Ham, though, Jared Bowen is on form. He has 8 goal involvements, 6 goals and 2 assists in his last 9 games for the Hammers. The Hammers themselves played in Europe in midweek and wrote a bit of history. They became the first English team going on a run of 17 games undefeated in Europe. It might be only the Conference League and Liga Europa, but still, it's quite an achievement. When it comes to Newcastle, after losing 3 in a row, now we have lost the last 3 in a row with a goal difference of 11-0. We last won 4 consecutive games without conceding back in April 2012 with Alan Pardew in charge. And in our last 6 games, of course, since losing at Brighton, we are 6 games undefeated and drawing only once at the San Siro, beating in the meantime Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain and destroying Sheffield United with 8-0. Because of the 8-0 win against Sheffield United, Newcastle also has the highest number of goal scorers in the Premier League with 10 people already scoring and opening their accounts. Away the lads, let's write more history on Sunday.
And if you're travelling down to West Ham, here is Scunny Mag with all the information you need to know.
Luis Enrique, Kylian Mbappe, René Artois, Monsieur Leclerc, Sacha Distel, Asterix the Gaul, Marcel Marceau, Jacques Cousteau, Jean-Paul Sartre, Inspector Clouseau, Joan of Arc, Napoleon Bonaparte, Michel of the Resistance, Coco Chanel, Gérard Depardieu, Pepe Le Pew, Emmanuel Macron, Nostradamus. You didn't see this one coming. Your boys took one hell of a beating. Anyway, West Ham coming up.
Okay, so if you're arriving by train, you've got 2 options. There's Hackney Wick, an overground station that's really handy for the stadium. It's probably the closer of the 2. And Stratford International is 15-20 minutes walk from the ground. For those driving in, you need to be heading towards Stratford International Station and the Westfield Mall, where there is a multi-storey car park. That will set you back at around a tenner for the day, just under, I think. And again, is really handy. You're in a shopping complex that's got pubs and bars and stuff like that. The away-friendly pub in there is under the Premier Inn, and it's called the Tap East. and it's sort of on the northwest corner of the mall. Your what 3 words for the front of the Tap East pub is good, slim agenda. Okay, moving across to the Hackney Wick Overground station. As you come out of there, head south, turn left, and you'll be coming up towards a bridge. There are 2 sort of real ale kind of hop house pubs next to each other. First one you come to is called the Howling Hops, and the second one is the Crate Brewery, and that's right on the canal. Both nice. Crate Brewery is probably better in warmer weather because you can sit on the riverbank. And then just over the bridge from them, you turn right, you're heading towards the stadium, which is probably the length of 2 football pitches away. Your what 3 words for the front door roughly of the Howling Hops is many park score, and if that's full or you fancy sitting by the river, your what 3 words for the Crate Brewery is little chimp risks, and that will bring you to the top of the stairs that you need to go down to access the bar. Okay, once you're done there, heading up to the stadium, we are on the southwest corner, and if you have gone up to the ground and you can't get in anywhere, all those are full or something's happened, then around the stadium you'll need to show your ticket to get into the perimeter, and then outside before you go into the actual ground there's like a fan village all the way around. There's beer and bands and stuff like that, depending on the weather. If it's a nice day, it might be worth going in there and enjoying the atmosphere. It's mixed. When I was there last, there didn't appear to be any fan segregation, so it's generally a good atmosphere. And at that point, you're basically in the ground. You've gone through the outer entry, and you just go in and find your seat once you're ready. Once it gets near the kickoff. The away section is on the southwest corner of the ground, and your what 3 words for the turnstiles is Fruit Cave Arena. You want to be in that sort of area. Okay, best of luck. Enjoy the game.
Ooh, I love that last one. Fruit Cave Arena. It's the what 3 words always amaze me. Yeah, thanks to Scunny Mag for
Massive fisting explosion.
That was a wonderful explosion from Scunny Mag at the start of his video as well. Getting really good, excellent stuff in the spirit of NUFC. We know the injury situation at Newcastle. As for West Ham, well, Michael Antonio and Aaron Cresswell are both doubtful. We will see what the setup is on Sunday. Referee Peter Banks has had 2 Premier League appearances involving Newcastle last season. 1-1 draw at Wolves, 1-1 home game against West Ham. And on VAR, well, it can't get any worse than last week, can it? Andy Madeley is on VAR. Okay, George, how do you see this one going? Is it going to be after the Lord Mayor's show, or is it going to be carry on for Newcastle and another 3 points in the bag?
Much of the shame for me. I'm very bullish at the moment, and I can't see it being worse than a 2-0 win to Newcastle United. Could be better, but 2-0 at least, I would say. I just have that feeling that they're on song, and once a team's like that, it's difficult to shake it out of them. And have the ability to do the 5-1 again if the ball runs right for them early on. So 2-0 is what I'm going for, and I think they'll skate it, frankly.
I'm going 2-1. I think the fact that Joe Linton will be fit, I think, and replace Anthony Gordon, who's suspended, and Callum Wilson, who will be fit and will probably play up front. I'm going to go 2-1. I think Newcastle will win the game. I think it'll be tight, though. Got to give West Ham respect. They're a different team to last season. They did well last season. They've plugged the hole that was left by Declan Rice, I think, really well. With their acquisitions, but I think it'll be tighter than 5-1. I'm going to go 2-1 to Newcastle. Mitch, we've got the dice tonight.
They have. I mean, for me, they've had Europe, we've had Europe. We've got players coming back. We've had certain decisions taken away about who could or can't play. We did to them last season pretty much what we did to PSG. We bullied them into submission. Their own mistakes caused some of the goals we scored. But we forced those mistakes, and I think that we could do that again quite easily. But I do think, like you, it's going to be tight from a personal point of view. Remember, if you're going to the way end, the what 3 words are massive fractal orgasm, and let's roll the dice. And the dice says 1-2.
Same as me. Okay.
You.
Is that what you're going for as well, Mitch? 2-1?
I'll take that. Yeah.
Okay. Going 3-1, Stu.
The last few games I went 1-0, and it hasn't been, we've won comfortably. So I'm going to go 1-0, but there's a couple of things I want to say regarding the backroom staff. None of them are there by mistake. And what you have is 2 words, trust and respect. And if you've got that as a management team, the people working for you will respond to that in kind, and that's how it works. So I think 1-0, I'll say Lascelles again. I'm with you that there'll be Joe Linton or even Isaac on the left, because I think Wilson will start. What 3 words I've been waiting to say this, Steve, since the last on the Amigos. Speak up, man. That was it.
Steve.
I'm going for 2-1. I think Newcastle will keep going in the same direction as they have been for the last few weeks with a victory. I think if anyone's going to struggle with a hangover, it's going to be West Ham. I don't think we'll have a hangover at all. I think we'll be high as kites, to be perfectly honest. And we're going into an international break, and I don't think Eddie Howe will allow the team to take their foot off the gas. And nor will Jason Tyndall, and nor will Graham Jones, and nor will the rest of his backroom staff. It'd be a great atmosphere. I think it's one of those grounds where if you go ahead, then West Ham fans do have a tendency to kind of deflate a little bit. They did it last season, you know. They came at us, didn't get the break, and then basically deflated as we just took them apart, as has already been mentioned. But they're a good bunch of fans, you know, working class EastEnders, and I think that the days of the West Ham Terror squad have sort of depreciated immensely, and I think that it'll be a great occasion, a great game. But every game in the Premier League is turning into that at the moment. And, you know, as a Newcastle fan, we're just really excited. So 2-1 for me, Steve, and then a nice little break for the lad.
Okay, the poll that we're running tonight had 248 votes. Which was the best win? Barca, 22%, PSG, 78%. So that's your winner tonight, comprehensive winner as well. Tomorrow, those were the days, is on at 10 o'clock in the morning. It is season 1988, 1989. One to forget, it has to be said. And then Mitch and I will be back on Sunday, 9:30 in the morning. George, you are invited to the professionals on Sunday if you'd like to join us, because Stu is working.
Thank you very much.
So I will send you the link. So we will be back with the professionals to look ahead to the West Ham game. 9:30 Sunday morning, and then it'll be the fans forum to start the week as well. So great to have you on. Thanks to Steve, thanks to Mitch, thanks to George, and a big thanks to Stu for coming on tonight. Been an absolute pleasure, mate. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the game. Take care.
Cheers, lads. Thanks a lot.
And you.